Hello and welcome to episode 209 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, from the Great White North, Shanine. How are you doing?
Doing good. Really appreciating that picture of Emma that we have.
Yes. I was telling Janine right before we started that this will tie in with our June theme of I literally Googled the word nostalgia and picked the first picture, and I spent more time trying to find a good picture of Emma. And I feel like my time was well spent.
It really captures the spirit of her. I
Yes.
feel like she's with us.
Yes. I thought the vibe was perfect.
Yeah.
So this week we are kicking off our June theme, which is nostalgia. We're going to be doing this and chatting about our top three things we are nostalgic for. But before we get into that and what all we have been up to, as always, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411. You can join our Discord server or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can watch live Monday nights at 6:45 Mountain Time ish, and be part of the chat and post-show chats. And then you can also find the video over on our YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. And then you can also head over to that Redbubble store if you want to get any First Geek 411 merch. Shanine, it's been a while since we've been on together. We were both out last week, and here we are. But how are you doing? What have you been up to?
Um, Several things. I was not here last week because we went to BC for a wedding, um, out in Squamish. Um, 10 out of 10 for wedding location. It's heckin' gorgeous out there. Uh, yeah, just got to spend a few days in the mountains, driving past the ocean, the Howe Sound, all those things. Um, Stayed at a campground, and by campground I mean like fancy cabins.
The best kind of
Um,
camping.
yes, um, with a river right outside our window, and yeah, it was it was nice. Too fast, but very nice. Also had the best eggs Benedict I've
Hmm.
ever had in my entire life. Like I did not even imagine eggs Benedict could be that good.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I've ever had Eggs Benedict.
I mean, if you ever plan on doing so, you should come up to Squamish and go to Fergie's Cafe. Um,
It's like I feel like I have to have
it's
had
the
it
way to do it.
once, but I don't know. But now I must wait until I can go to Canada.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting from this story. Is it's just not worth it if I don't get them there. So
I mean, if you've waited this long,
yeah, I'll just get a couple more omelets. Like it's not a big deal, and then
yeah,
eventually make my way to Canada. Perfect.
exactly.
Deanna, we're going for breakfast. If we hurry, we can get there just in time.
People were brunching there from Vancouver, which is like an hour and a half drive. So,
That's commitment.
in the middle of the week, no less. Like, yeah,
Man, that's the life I want.
right. Yeah. Um, Other than that, on the nerdy side of things, I finally got to play Wingspan for the first time ever this weekend. Um, Hung out with one of my main board gaming friends, and yeah, got to try Wingspan, and I understand now. I'm I love it. I love it so much. It was so much fun.
What's your overall summary of it? Like Deanna's played it, but I've never played it.
Overall summary is so like you are basically collecting birds in your bird sanctuary. You have three different habitats, kind of, and you can put them in the forest, or the field or the water. And then you got to feed them, and they can lay eggs, and you can get more birds. And then you also have like secret goals that you're trying to reach as well. And all those things get you points.
I like secret goals.
And pretty. It's so pretty. And all of the bird cards are unique. There is not a repeated bird in the entire deck.
Hmm.
And my friend had all the expansions, but the bird deck was like this high.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a lot of birds.
Yeah, and it
And
looks
they all
amazing.
have,
I know
it's
you're just
so
talking about like
pretty.
I've only ever
So
like
pretty.
kind of like again like in our board game group, one of the people or one of the couples have it, but we've always split guys and girls, and the girls have played Wingspan, and the guys have played insert masculine themed game here. I've always been jealous. Like it just looks so cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing game. It's very chill. I don't know, it was fun. And it's like my perfect level of strategy where it's like you have to put a little bit of thought into it, but you don't have to have like this super grandmaster strategy in order to even be competitive in it at all. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. I came in third, which I feel was acceptable for my first time ever playing. And I was only like 3 points away from first.
Oh, nice. That's super tight.
Yeah. Yep. It was really close. But yeah, super loved it. Want to play it again. Need to own it.
Needed. That's always the worst though. Is it's like, okay, well now I need to go all in on this.
Yep.
I've had a few of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. And it's a board game, so it's never like a cheap investment.
Mm-mm. Nope. That's how they get you.
Yeah. Worth it though.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got to play D&D this weekend, and it's been like 2 months, so that was very exciting.
Nice.
We solved a like puzzle maze getting out of an area that we had just gotten into, and then fought something that we apparently were not supposed to fight. We were supposed to run from it.
Oh, did you win?
But I am a punchy paladin, and I just went for it. And yes, we did win.
Proud of you.
Um, it was looking a bit sketchy there for
Mm-hmm.
a hot second, but
Campaign over. You killed the big bad.
oh man, yeah, it was gonna be real bad. It was a shambling mound that we were
You.
fighting.
I just assume you. I'm imagining Mind Flayer from Stranger Things.
No, not so much that. I was picturing it as like a forest golem.
Mm. That's much better.
Yeah,
Much less gross.
yeah. But yeah, it had vines and things that it could like trap you with. And I got trapped immediately
Of course.
for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 rounds. And it did like 29 damage on me.
Oof. What level are y'all?
5.
Oof.
Yeah. So I was down to very little health. And then everybody got caught like that at least once. And then one of our people got hit very bad and went to 0 hit points. So, but nobody died.
That's good.
Nobody died. But yes, turns out we were supposed to run, not fight. But that's the second time my husband has done that to us, given us something that we were not supposed to fight, and my character does not learn.
You know, sometimes the party just needs someone to run headlong and move the story forward.
It's not gonna move very far if we die, though.
I mean, then you just get a new party, and then they move the story forward.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. We made it.
That's what counts. So, kind of speaking of D&D, forced segue. We had the release of Commander Legends 2: Battle for Baldur's Gate, which is a D&D themed summer magic set. And so this weekend I went with one of my friends, Peter, and we played that. And so a bunch of characters are apparently from the Forbidden Realms stories. I don't know who any of them are, but there's a lot of cool ones. And so that's been my D&D summary of that set. And so we went and played, and it's Commander. So you actually like draft a deck and then play it with a commander. I managed to win our 5-person pod. It was probably the worst draft I've ever had, or like in terms of there are 5 of us. You're supposed to have 8, but there were only 5 of us, and then 4 out of the 5 of us played blue, which at most 2, maybe 3 would be pushing it in an 8-person draft. But 4 out of the 5 of us played blue, and then 2 other players were playing the same colors as me. So it was something. I managed to win by not dying, was legitimately the strategy. And one of my opponents, I don't know if they needed to leave, but it was I'm going to attack everyone. We're going to see if the math works out. And the math did not work out. And they ended up killing the other 2 players, and then they decked themselves, and I won. So, yay, I just hung out, basically. I'd done stuff up to that point, but it was one of those. It's kind of like, it was like an anticlimactic win, because it was just, hey, what happened with the math? And that was basically the result of the game. It was just a lot of us doing okay, well, if you're attacking for this, and so I need to do these things, but if I do this, then there's a whole lot of that, and then figuring out if everyone lived. So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. Always excited for these summer sets, and so they tend to be more multiplayer focused. So I'm going to try to hopefully play some more if I can find a group to do some more drafting with. And then similarly, I've been playing Slay the Spire, which is a deck builder roguelike where you're trying to climb to the top of this tower, and you have different characters. They each have different abilities. It was, I think, free in May, or no, it's free in April for PlayStation Plus, and so that was when I picked it up. This past week, I got my first wins with 2 out of the 3 characters. So now I just need to get the 3rd one. And then it looks like something will happen from there. I don't know. But I've been really enjoying that because I like roguelikes and I like deck building. So here we are. And then in chat, Chunk mentioned Vecna when we were talking about the Shambling Mass, which reminded me, we watched Stranger Things, Season 4, Part 1. Really enjoyed that. We binged it over 2 days. And so, have you watched it yet?
We're halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah, getting there. We did not have the time for binging.
Yeah.
Especially not those long of episodes.
Yeah, and they're only going to get longer. So, I was very shocked by their release style of it was oh, we're going to release in 2 chunks. Just kidding. It's 7 out of 9 episodes at once. It just feels so weird to, there's even a point, in, I want to say end of episode 4, that would have been a perfect cliffhanger to go into. I'm trying not to say anything specific, but in one of the earlier episodes where would have been a perfect cliffhanger to go into the break. And it was oh, I mean, it ends on a good place. I really enjoyed this season. It's probably my 2nd favorite season after season 1. Um, but yeah, very much looking forward to the next 2 episodes and where they're going to go with it. And then I think we just have one more season, they said, and then we're done. I think they confirmed the 5th season would be the last season. So.
Well, there is another one. For some reason, I thought this was the last season.
Yeah, I feel like I thought that too, and I'm not sure if it was something where they had said that at one point and then changed their mind. But yeah, I feel like that was in my like subconscious as well. And then I saw this post about season 5 being the last season, and I was like, oh.
Cool.
Yeah. Chunk calls out, episode 9 is supposed to be 2.5 hours long. So that's going to be a trek. Yeah. So that's a thing. And then this week, Jurassic World Dominion comes out. So Deanna and I watched Jurassic World Fallen Empire. It was my first time seeing it, I think, since it came out in theaters. And so, Fallen Kingdom, Deanna says. Thank you. Fallen Kingdom. I feel like I said Empire when we were watching it as well. Like when we were like trying to find it. And then the mistake just lives on. And so, but yeah, I really enjoy that one. I like that it's a lot smaller scale than a lot of the other Jurassic Park / World movies. Like all in all, it pretty much all takes place in this mansion. Like they go to the island, but pretty briefly. And so I kind of like that smaller scale of it. It just seems a lot more intense in that regard. But yeah, chat, let us know what you have been up to. What movies have you mispronounced recently? Or what have you been watching? And so then this month we're gonna get into our topic of the show, which for this month is our June theme, which is nostalgia. And so we're going to be taking look backs, doing all of that kind of thing. If you're hanging out in chat, let us know some things that you are nostalgic about. We're going to do kind of the same thing that we did for our Sages episode, where we're going to do our top 3 a little bit earlier in the show. And then we're going to be able to kind of use that as part of our discussion. So what does being nostalgic mean for you, Shanine?
I don't know. I was thinking of this earlier, and I feel like I was being a little cynical about it. I guess just looking back on the past with some rose-colored glasses. Idealizing past things.
Yeah, rose-tinted glasses was kind of the same idea that I kind of had with it. That idea of like, what are the moments or memories that like really outside of any bigger context, you look back fondly on, and I feel like it also has that tinge of like not really knowing the bigger picture a lot of the times. And so like I feel a lot of people are nostalgic for a time. Obviously, when we were young, I feel like that's kind of the prime thing, because it's at that point you don't really know what's going on. You kind of just get to be in your own bubble, which is awesome. I mean, for a lot of people, of course, there's people that don't get that blessing, but I think for a lot of people that's the case. And so, and then as I'll bring up with one of my picks, it's also, I think a lot of times the time, or for a lot of people, it's the times where you didn't have as many responsibilities. And I think that can be a big part of it too. Kind of tying in with that. And so, yeah, we'll talk more about nostalgia after we get through our top 3, which is happening right now. I said it was earlier. We did one question. Here we go. And so, Janine, as always, the first rule of top 3s are that there are no rules. And so, what are some things that you are nostalgic for?
Um, I think the biggest thing that I am nostalgic about the most is all of the places that I have traveled to before. Um, there are some places that I have spent, I'd say, a decently significant amount of time in, and just a lot of good memories in those places. Um, like I went to Ecuador in my grade 11 year to spend 3 months with my missionary family that lived there. And I mean, probably over 3 months, there was still some hard things that happened, but I have only good memories, and it was just wonderful. Best chocolate cake I've ever had. Um, and lots of other good Ecuador things.
For me, I feel all of mine are video games, but they kind of represent something bigger. And so I'm going to say that with this. And so my first one is Pokemon Gold and Silver. That was, I think, for that time in my life, that was very much the like, how could a video game ever get better than this? Or I think I've played through those two games so many times, um, and um, it was also I'd like recently moved, and so it was one of those things that was like I started to make a lot of friends at my new school through Pokemon, and so that was kind of like the getting to be a part of things, and then like playing at recess and that kind of stuff, and then like talking Pokemon with everyone and that kind of thing. I think that kind of those two games kind of encompassed a lot of that elementary school vibe for me. In terms of like again, that was Pokemon cards were huge. Like the games were taking off. Like and again, just kind of for that time that I was at, I feel like that was peak Cameron, or peak like those like peak time for that to happen for me, based on where I was at, and yeah, it was just one of those like really great times in my life. Like again, kind of like looking back, it is the game, but it's also kind of the making friends because of it that very much colors those memories.
Um, my number two is back in my high school days, I was on a very nerdy forum called Ladies of Elegance, where we role played Victorian England, and it got very dramatic. Um, so much drama all of the time. Um, and we would have seasonal balls where we would all get on at the same time and like role play our ball together, and it was so much fun, and we had a really great group of us together um, for that period of time, just telling silly stories together.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
How did you find that?
um how did we find that? So I was on, as well as um one of my best friends. We were both like very into Victorian England, like, and like Regency, Pride and Prejudice, all that kind of things. I think my friend found it somehow and invited me. I don't know how she came across it, but
The reason I ask is because one of the things that was on my short list, and didn't make it, was I was part of also video games, but I was part of an RP forum for a while for the game Disgaea. But like looking back, I have no clue how I came across it. Like it's one of those that like I've thought about it. I'm like how did I end up here? Like like I just can't. I can remember like it was really one of my introductions to like I mean what would kind of become me wanting to play D&D and stuff like that. It was really kind of my introduction to that. But like for the life of me, I cannot remember how I got there. And I'm like, that's one of those like looking back too, tying this in with nostalgia. It's like those earlier days of the internet. It's like, how did things happen? Because like now the answer would be like someone tagged me in a post on Twitter or something like that. But yeah, I just have like no clue how I stumbled across that. And I was like, I was hoping that what you would say would like spark something in me for like, oh yeah, that is what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Forums just existed
Mm-hmm.
and consumed you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they were.
Do you remember your character's name?
Yes, I was Lady Arwen Henson.
Nice.
Yeah, I was on the run because there was, I believe it was my cousin was trying to marry me, and I was not down with that. So I ran away. Um, my one true love came with me to protect me by order of my older brother. And then there was some drama with some other um, ladies, male characters that they had created, but it always came back to Emmett. So,
Also, a good story hook for a D&D character. But yeah, that's awesome. Um, for me, my number two is the time in my life when I was playing Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. And so I feel like this was, I want to say this was like, so like Pokemon is like elementary age for me. And then Morrowind is like middle school, maybe into early high school. Um, and I was talking to one of my coworkers about this, which was like why it was like fresh in my mind. That game is so like intentionally obtuse, and thinking of the idea of rose tinted glasses, like I remember loving all of that. And it's one of those things that I could not imagine myself going back to. Like this image I have of the game would not remotely hold up to if I went back and played. But like I just loved that. I did a Daily Nerd Devo on it at one point, um, and because like the like literally the way that the quests would work is that they would tell you to be like, hey, go to this town, walk north northeast until you cross a hill, and then this cave is on the other side. Like there were no waypoints, there was no like instructions on the map. It was just, hey, it's in this general area. You had no way of knowing if you went past it. You had no way of knowing like really what was going on. And it was just like always an adventure. And yeah, I do not remotely think I could go back and play it again, but I loved it for that time in my life. Again, that's kind of like the not having responsibilities time of like even for like high school responsibilities of stuff like band and tennis. Like I didn't really have extracurriculars, and so it was like hanging out with friends or playing Morrowind, and so it was a good time.
that's good. That sounds so awful to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm so bad with maps to begin with. Having vague directions would be so disastrous.
Yeah. Oh, one of the other things again, intentionally obtuse. So like most games, you had like a quest log, except it was filled out as you went. So like you could have an entry on page 10 that referenced a quest you started on page 3 if you did a lot of stuff in between. So it would be like, oh, I chatted with blah 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 about what had happened previously, and you wouldn't know what had happened previously because it was like 10 pages earlier. And again, it was just like so intentionally obtuse, and I loved it.
All right. My number three would have to be the good old days of the summer book reading club at the library. Um, just getting to take out like 20 books every week and read them all and get sweet, sweet prizes for them. Just having the time to just read books always was it was beautiful. Some good times. The days of reading the Royal Diaries, and Magic Treehouse, and stuff like that.
That's one of those things that like I mean, and I've said this with like book club before. Of like, I don't read a lot, and that's one of the things I've loved about our book club. Um, is that it definitely is like the motivation for me to read. But like, I remember like there being some like actually good books when we would do stuff like that for school. It was like the hey summer, here's a list of books, read to any two, like stuff like that. A lot of times there were some that were like again like for me as like the kid that didn't specifically like reading, it was like wait this was actually good. I actually enjoyed it. It was like the, and so I miss those times. Although people will have to stay tuned for our book club ranking for which of those have actually been enjoyed. Plot twist, most of them. Um, um, my next one is um, again. I'm just going like chronologically through my life, and that is the Guitar Hero days. Um, so like again, Pokemon is elementary school, Morrowind is middle school. Now we're in high school. Like this is like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, all of that is in full swing. And like there are so many like summer like high school memories that are hanging out with friends, playing hours of Guitar Hero. And then like going to the park, hanging out, coming back, playing more Guitar Hero. Um, and again, it's one of those that like I don't really think I would get into if it came back, but like hitting at that time, it was again kind of the I feel kind of the same way that I feel about Pokemon, where like this was like Guitar Hero 3 was when I was in high school, and it just hit at like that perfect time for me. That like everyone was into it. People that weren't into video games were into it, and it was like the so like me and like some of my nerdier friends, it's like oh we would do that, then go back home and play Halo or play other games. Um, and then like we'd all get together, we'd play Rock Band or Guitar Hero, and it's like that was just like such an awesome like high school moment um, that we got to have. That you know I don't know if that'll ever be replicated, but here we are.
Good old Guitar Hero days. We had it at our youth group.
Mm-hmm.
So every every Friday night people were playing Guitar Hero. The only one that I could play successfully was I Love Rock and Roll
Mm-hmm.
because it was basically like two notes.
One of the things that gets me is like Deanna and I will still have conversations about stuff. It's like, wait, wasn't that a song in Guitar Hero?
Yeah.
Like just like in no context, or like we went to I want to say we went to a Stars hockey game, and they played a song, and we're like, oh yeah, this was a lot of fun on Guitar Hero. Like it just has like so transcended, and like we also had Guitar Hero at my youth group, and so it was always the like class would end and people would all rush over to go play and like stuff like that. Oh, it was so good. Nostalgia, man. Is this just our excuse to reminisce? Maybe. Uh, so in chat, Chunk answers, what is he nostalgic about? And says, I'm very nostalgic for video stores. It was more of an event going to the video store with some friends on a Friday night and grabbing a few movies and pizza and having a movie night. Watching a movie at home doesn't feel like an event anymore now that we have a million things to watch at our fingertips. And so, and Deanna says, I had Guitar Hero 3 at home, the only thing I played. Yes. But yeah, do you have experiences with like Blockbuster rental, like video rentals?
Yeah, like way back. There was, I think it was, is it Blockbuster? It must have been. We had one right across from my middle school, so it was very convenient to go to. I don't think we went too often, but once in a while. It was exciting being able to rent something.
Yeah, ours is kind of the same. Like, there was one near-ish my high school, and so it was and kind of like what Chunk was saying. It was kind of that same thing of like, hey, are we going to go to someone's house and try to find a movie to watch, or are we going to go over to Blockbuster and try to see what's happening? And yeah, I really like what he said about the idea of it being more of an event. Like, now it's so I feel like it's so much easier to be indecisive when you have like, oh well, there's nothing on Netflix, so I guess I'll go to this. But like, you would get to the point at Blockbuster where it was like, hey, we're leaving in 5 minutes, like pick a movie. And so like there was like a lot of times you would get these really weird movies just because it's like, well, this looks decent. um, Kind of the idea of like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, there are so many movies that like we would watch just because like the cover of it looked interesting and we had to pick something because we needed to leave, and here we are. And so, good times. Um, so we kind of already talked about this, but why do you think some people are nostalgic for specific things? Um, we kind of hit on this kind of as we were talking through, but like, why is it that certain things jump out as nostalgic for people?
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the good memories that it's tied to. Um, yeah, that's probably
Mm-hmm.
the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, we've kind of taken this phrase of like rose tinted glasses, but like I feel like that's such a huge part of it. Is it's that idea of, again, I mean, I had a good high school experience, all things considered. Actually hearing about what other people have been through, but it's one of those that like it's so easy to forget about those things and just think about like some of the good things that happened. And that's kind of getting nostalgic for those things. And I do think that we can really tie in with like, um, not really getting stuff. So like, and this was like elementary school for me, but like an example of that would be like 9/11. Like, that was something that like I was in 5th grade when that happened. Like, I had no clue what that meant. I'd never been to New York. I didn't know what the Twin Towers were. I wasn't worried about anything because I was in 5th grade. And so I think that that's one of those things that kind of ties in. It's like, it's just so easy to not get caught up in the bigger picture of things, um, when you're at that younger age, and kind of just look back at like the happy times. And that really can like contribute to that idea of, or that feeling, those feelings of nostalgia.
Yeah, definitely like a selective memory type thing.
Yeah. So as we are picking our themes, one of the things that we're trying to do is tie them in with other things, whether it's releases or silly holidays or something like this. So, or stuff like that. So May theme was the Sage, tying in with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and the premiere of Obi-Wan. And so for June, our theme of nostalgia kind of comes from a handful of places. So we have Jurassic World Dominion coming out. We have Lightyear coming out at the end of the month. And then we also have a couple silly holidays happening, which are Ferris Bueller's Day Off on June 5th, and then Ghostbusters Day on June 8th. And so, kind of as part of all of this, are any of these franchises that you are nostalgic for? And kind of out of that, what is your experience with those four franchises?
I mean, I think I got into most of those franchises very late in life. Um, I did grow up with Toy Story though. Um, yeah, I don't know. I love Toy Story. It's so good. I'm always so shocked when people have not seen it. I remember being a Young Life leader and finding out that my kids had never seen Toy Story, and I was like, but how? Um, I don't know. I think whenever I watch the first Toy Story, I'm always so shocked to go back to what the animation looked
Mm-hmm.
like back then. And I'm like, I remember this very differently in my head. I'm like, I don't know how I have somehow like edited this animated movie in my memory, but it looks better.
It looks way better. Um, so I'm gonna throw this up in chat or in the picture. It's kind of there. This is our um, tier list from when we ranked all the Pixar movies. And so let me see if I can make this a little bit better. Nope, that's worse. Please hold. There we go. Good enough. And so this was our tier list. And so, like, looking back at the ideas, especially now that we're like almost 2 months out from this list, like, I did not remember where Toy Story had landed. Like, I remembered it being very high, but like 3 out of the 4 movies are either S or A tier for us. And I feel like nostalgia was like one of the major driving factors for that. Um, like not necessarily in the sense that like, hey, they're bad, but like I definitely think like I definitely think that kind of ties in. Like, um, and I think this is one of the things that Chris had specifically mentioned. But like Toy Story, like especially Toy Story 1 and then Toy Story 3 hit at like such prime times for our generation, with like us being young when Toy Story 1 came out, and then Toy Story 3 being it was the end of my freshman year in college when that dropped. So this whole thing about Andy like moving on and all that kind of stuff was just like, oh man, right in the feels, Andy. And yeah, like of these, I'm kind of with you. Of these franchises, Toy Story is really the one that means the most to me. Um, it's definitely the one that I've connected with the most. Not that I haven't enjoyed the other ones, but it's definitely the one that's the biggest one for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot of nostalgia around Toy Story, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it still holds up.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think the other ones, I saw them all as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jurassic Park was the one that people got to be shocked at me about never having seen.
Um, in chat, Chunk says Toy Story is probably the one I'm most nostalgic for because it was such an awesome story and animation style that was unlike anything we'd seen before. Yeah, definitely agree. Um, but yeah, it's funny you say that. Jurassic Park's actually kind of the same for me. I had seen the first Jurassic Park. We actually like watched it in school when we were studying the dinosaurs, and so, um, but then I hadn't seen any of the other ones until Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom came out. Saw both of those in theaters, but I hadn't seen any of the Jurassic Park sequels until Deanna and I got married. It was just one that like I really liked Jurassic Park, but it was just like I never circled back to seeing any of the sequels. Um, you know, what about Ghostbusters?
Um, also saw as an adult. I haven't seen like any of the new ones, but and weirdly, I think that is like almost a little bit of a nostalgia thing that I
Mhm.
haven't watched any of the new ones, and I'm like, but what if they ruin it?
Oh, what did they ruin it? Um, yeah, for me, like I think my dad really liked like my dad liked the Ghostbusters movies, and so I had seen them, but they were things that like I just never really connected with. Um, and to like the same degree as like a lot of other people. Like I've talked about this with Star Wars stuff of like I don't remember watching Star Wars for the first time. I just remember knowing the story of Star Wars. And I feel like Ghostbusters was kind of the opposite of like, oh yeah, I can remember watching this and being like, oh, this is fun, and then like, oh, we're watching this again, okay. Like I enjoyed it, would happily watch it again, but it was just not one of those movies that, or like, especially the second one. It was just like not one of those movies that like I specifically connected with. And I feel like some of it might have been that like it was like over my head as a kid, that like I didn't get a lot of the jokes, I didn't get a lot of like the references that it was making. And so it was just kind of a movie about ghosts in New York, which was cool in itself, but um, I just never really got to connect with it. And then the last one, Ferris Bueller. This is the one that like honestly I have seen this movie once and did not enjoy it, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Maybe I'm bitter because the person named Cameron is like a grouch in that movie, because he's like going through things, but like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like I just remember like watching that and just being like, I don't get it. Like it's one of those movies that like again I just don't know. Like I know some people that just absolutely love that movie, and I just like I just don't get it. It's fine.
I mean, yeah, life happens fast. Blink and you might miss it. That's the point of the movie. It's so quotable.
I will say maybe this is one that like I need to go back and watch. Like again, I just feel like I don't know. I like because it's like end of high school, right? That's the vibe. It's like maybe I like when I watched this, I don't know. Maybe I was like elementary school, middle school, and I just didn't get it. Like I just didn't connect with any of that because I was so far out. And then like because of that, I kind of remember not liking it, and I've just never got around to it. Um,
That's just a classic.
yeah. Again, it's one of the that I know everyone loves. I mean, I quote it all the time too. Although I quote a lot of things quoting it. It's one of those because it is so quotable that it's like the like you can definitely watch it and not understand the references, or watch something else and not understand the references that it's making to Ferris Bueller. So
Yep.
um, yeah, so I feel like that one's definitely a hot take from me. But
Yeah.
okay, this one's not in the notes. You talked about eggs Benedict earlier, and that got me thinking. Are there any foods that you are nostalgic for?
Oh man. Probably a lot. I mean, seriously, that chocolate cake from Bumpan in Ecuador, it was the most amazing thing. Like it was almost fudge. It was so rich, but it was cake and like, oh my gosh, so good. Um, on our missions trips down to Costa Rica at the like convenience store, I'd always get these cookies called chickies that were kind of like a graham cracker with chocolate on one side. And I was just obsessed with them. Like I would bring like massive packs home just so I could have chickies after we got home. I'm sure there's more, but that's what comes to mind right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the kind of the same boat. I have two that come to mind. And they're actually like both recent, like adult life. And so the first one is when we were on a mission trip to Honduras when I was at the church in Connecticut. It was the first time that I'd had guacamole from like a like super fresh avocado. And it was even like one of those things. I think I've told this story in the podcast before, like in a post-show chat or something, where like I hadn't really liked guacamole and I hadn't really liked avocado. And then like having fresh guacamole, I feel like changed my life. Like it was one of those things that like I have a completely different outlook on food now because of this. Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, again, it was one of those things that like, yeah, it was kind of like a defining food memory for me. And then my other one, also from when I was in Connecticut, was how amazing the pizza was up there. Of like, I did not realize how bad like Texas pizza was until I had moved to Connecticut. And part of that was because like when like for me like Texas pizza was always like Domino's or Pizza Hut. Like, and it's not that it was bad by any means, but like it was mass market pizza. And then like you would go to this like hole in the wall mom and pop shop in Connecticut and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I guess we have pizza on the menu if you want that." And it would be like the best pizza that you'd ever had. And it was everywhere. Like there were just so many good places that you could go to. And yeah, that was like a big part of it. Now there's definitely some like, and they may have been here before and we just had never gone, but there's definitely some like really good pizza places here in Dallas now that we've gone to. And so like that's definitely changed a bit. But that was like a big one for me of like when I like look back at Connecticut, like one of the big things that I think about is the food and how good the food was. Especially because like I didn't have that when I was there for Dallas. Like I missed things in general. Like I missed having good barbecue, but it wasn't like a specific barbecue place. Where now I feel like I could name off like 5 pizza places off the top of my head. And they're all like places that like, oh man, I could go for that. Yeah, so good. I miss those pizzas and the people, you know, but especially the pizza. And so, yeah, so that was a big one for me. Do you have any nostalgia for other places you've lived?
I mean, I have always lived here, except for like my extended trips to like
Mm-hmm.
Ecuador and Southeast Asia, which definitely I am nostalgic for those things. I don't know. If you're there for 5 months, does that
Yeah,
count as living there?
sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. You do get really settled in a place. I still miss like going to the market street and stuff like that. In Thailand. Speaking of nostalgic for food as well, the iced coffee vendor, they make it up in a bag and it has sweetened condensed milk in it and it is so sweet and so delicious. You just carry your bag of iced coffee around with you and oh man, it's so good.
I feel like for me, there's a lot of the like what could have beens when it comes to like where I used to live. So like we lived around it was in San Marcos, but near San Antonio. That was where I lived before I moved to Dallas. And so like I lived there until like second grade. And so it's one of those that's like, man, what would my hobbies have looked like if I would have stayed there? Like in this like college town where like my parents worked at the school. And like one of the defining features of the town is the river that you float. Like as someone who like isn't a huge fan of water, like it's like, man, what would my life have been? And so it's like it's less like even like the specific places. Um, like I remember the house that we lived in, but like um, again, I kind of remember it just as being huge. And I'm sure in hindsight, like it was a nice home, but it wasn't like nearly as big as I remember it. Um, and then like after that, I feel like a lot of times it was just this is the place that we're living. I feel like there's a lot of people that have that connection to like their childhood home or something like that. And maybe some of that for me is that like my dad still lives in the house that like we moved into when I was in high school, so it's like I still go there, um, versus my mom who doesn't. And so maybe that's like something that would change if he ever sold that house. Um, but it's definitely interesting to kind of look back on that idea of like the hobbies or like the for people that like lived in less city than I did, of like the people that would go off into the woods or the creeks or whatever and hang out and play games and do all of that kind of stuff. Whereas for us, it was like we're gonna go to the school and play basketball, that kind of thing, until we all got into frisbee. But yeah. Any final words or final thoughts on the theme of nostalgia?
Um, Here's a question for you. Watching Stranger Things again, I keep being reminded of how I have never seen the never-ending story. And I am wondering if there's anything that other people are super nostalgic about that you have not experienced.
I think for me, there's a lot of things that like I'll kind of put this in like the same camp as like the Ferris Bueller's thing of like I just don't get it. Um, like we watched Never. It's funny you say Never Ending Story. We watched that in like after school program when I was a kid, but like I don't really remember it. And we watched like some like out there movies. Like it's kind of fun, like weird to look back on because it's like we watched Studio Ghibli stuff, and I'm like, this is like early '90s. How are we getting Studio Ghibli stuff? Like props to those after school people. Um, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel like that's one for me. Um, and I'm trying to think what else. I don't know. I feel like there's some stuff around the. Oh, one for me is anything Nickelodeon related. Like I was a Cartoon Network kid, and so I never really watched Nickelodeon. And so there's a whole lot of people that love like Hey Arnold and stuff like that, and even like SpongeBob, which like I've seen a decent amount of, but like it was what my little sister liked to watch, so I would watch it if she got to pick what was on TV. Um, but like a lot of that was just stuff that like I didn't like specifically connect with. Um, and so there's definitely a lot of people I feel like in our age bracket that like that's like their like if they like when you ask that question, what I kind of thought of is like if I was going to do Stranger Things, what references would I want to make? And I feel like there's a lot of people that would do a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, and I would just be like, that wasn't mine. That wasn't my mid 2000s whatever. But good, it's a good for all of you. I'm trying to think what else. I feel like there's got to be some like other movie franchises given the like blatant movie holes that I have. But I don't know. Nothing else really comes to mind right now. Hmm.
Well, it looks like we have both shocked Chunk to his core
Yes,
tonight. So,
Chunk is shook. Um, and so he says, kind of referencing back to earlier, You're absolutely taking crazy pills. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is phenomenal. And then what? Seriously, you gotta see it, Shanine.
I know it's on my list. I feel like it will not have the same impact on me that it had on everyone else because I've seen all the memes, so I know what happens.
Yeah.
Um, but I do still want to see it.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something to that. Like even if it doesn't hit for you the same way as it hits for other people, there's something of like it's almost like being in on the joke now. Um, it's the office of I love inside jokes. I hope to be a part of one someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just like something about like seeing the memes in their natural habitat like that. But, um, let's get into our announcements as we wrap up the show. Are you planning to stream this week?
I do not think I will be streaming this week unless we have a surprise stream this weekend. Maybe, I don't know. The computer needs to be taken back to the computer doctor, so there's that. And this is going to be another wild week for me.
Oh yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
for me, I'm gonna try to stream. I might try to stream. I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday. Try to do something there. I'll touch base with Emma on what her schedule is, so I don't overlap. But I might try to do something during the week again, just to kind of hang out. Maybe play some Magic, but or maybe some Slay the Spire. We'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do something during the week, and then other big announcement is end of the month. I believe it's actually like the end of the month, right? Yeah, on June 30th is our June book club, We Were Dreamers by Simu Liu. And so really excited about that. Star of Shang-Chi. And so I have not started mine yet, and I'm taking it with me to work tomorrow. So I'll actually like start on my lunch break. But I'm really excited about that. And then other announcement, hopefully next week we're going to be doing our definitive ranking of the 20 books that we have read for book club. And so it should be pretty good. I got it all loaded into Tier Maker, and so we'll be able to like tier list it up. And then we'll also put out the lists of other people that have read a lot of the books or anything like that. You can also make your own versions and rank them for yourself. I know I will be doing my own personal rankings leading into it. And if it's anything like the Pixar rankings, I will change mine like 5 times during the stream. And we'll see where things actually end up. But hopefully that'll be next week once we can get everyone back. So, yeah. If you're watching this later on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment with something that you are nostalgic for. What time period, era, movie, game, something like that is something that you are nostalgic for. And you can also let us know over on our social media. We are OneGeek411. And you can also join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Join live Twitch on Twitch Monday nights and be part of the post-show chats and find the videos over on YouTube. And then you can also find us at our personal social media. Mine is Hugh Marwitto.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES on Instagram.
And it's been a great week.
Read a book.